She was hired to babysit. Trusted. Experienced. The kind of woman who never missed a shift and always brought bedtime stories. But by morning, Olivia Hart was dead. No broken windows. No forced entry. Just one woman, alone with 2 sleeping children, and a killer no one saw coming. In the early hours of a seemingly ordinary morning, a panicked 911 call shattered the silence. A woman was dead, inside a home with 2 sleeping children just rooms away. What began as a simple night of babysitting unraveled into one of the most haunting and unexplained murder investigators had ever seen. Olivia Hart was the kind of babysitter who didn't just show up. She showed up with a binder. Emergency contacts. First aid kits. Nurturing energy. At 34, she was no part-time teen looking to make a few bucks. She was a certified childcare provider who ran her own small business in Brookridge, Indiana. Parents trusted her. Children loved her. But on the night of October 17, 2014, something went horribly, inexplicably wrong. The Hendersons, Jared and Melanie, had known Olivia for 2 years. Their 2 children, Emma, 4, and Caleb, 6, adored her. That Friday night, Olivia was scheduled to arrive by 6:30 p.m. Melanie had a work function. Jared was supposedly meeting friends for drinks. Routine. Normal. Olivia even sent a lighthearted text at 6:28. All set. Kids are finishing dinner. See you by midnight. It would be the last time anyone heard from her alive. When Melanie returned home at 12:44 a.m., she immediately sensed something was off. The porch light was out. The living room was too quiet. Normally Olivia would be watching a show on low volume or reading with a small lamp on. But this time? Nothing. No TV. No light. No greeting. She tiptoed upstairs and peeked in the children's rooms, both fast asleep. No signs of a disturbance. Then she descended into the living room. That's when she saw her. Olivia was sprawled on the floor, face down near the fireplace rug, arms at her sides. A pool of blood was darkening the beige carpet beneath her. The popcorn bowl lay tipped beside her and one of her shoes was off. Melanie screamed. Within 5 minutes, Brookridge PD had arrived. What baffled officers immediately was how sterile the scene looked. No broken locks. No signs of forced entry. Olivia's purse was undisturbed. Her phone was neatly placed on the coffee table. Her keys were still hooked to her lanyard, which hung from a nearby dining chair. And the children? Still sleeping. No bruises. No evidence they were sedated. No witnesses. The time of death was estimated between 9:45 and 10:15 p.m., hours before Melanie returned. But how could someone have entered and killed Olivia without waking the kids, alerting neighbors, or leaving a trace? The house security cameras might have helped, if they had been working. The Hendersons had installed a basic security system with 2 indoor cams, one facing the entryway, another in the hallway leading to the kids' rooms. When detectives reviewed the footage, they found something chilling. Both cameras had gone black at 9:42 p.m. Not frozen. Not disconnected. Just off. As if unplugged simultaneously. The fuse box hadn't been tampered with. The system hadn't malfunctioned. Someone, somehow, had known exactly how to disable them, or had access to the house long enough to prepare. Olivia's phone, clean and undisturbed on the table, should have been a goldmine of information. But when forensics opened it, what? No recent calls. No texts beyond 6:28 p.m. No app data. As if someone had factory reset the device, then placed it back where she had left it. Detective Angela Fry of the Brookridge Police Department later said, "It was like she'd vanished digitally, while her body was still warm." By sunrise, local news vans lined the curb. "Experienced babysitter murdered in quiet suburb," the headlines read. Parents who once entrusted Olivia with their children suddenly found themselves clutching them tighter. Fear crept into the streets of Brookridge. It wasn't just the murder, it was the quietness of it. The surgical precision. The timing. The absence of anything normal about this kind of crime. And then early that morning, at 2:17 a.m. to be exact, dispatch received a call from a blocked number. A single, breathless voice whispered, "She's already dead." Then silence. The call traced back to a nearby cell tower, less than a mile from the Hendersons' home. But no further metadata. No voice recognition hit. Just an ominous message that suggested one thing. Someone knew. Long before anyone else did. In the coming days, investigators would turn their attention to the one person whose alibi didn't quite hold up. Jared Henderson. The husband. The last known person to speak with Olivia. The man whose phone pinged in 2 places that night, and who had more to lose than anyone imagined. 2 children were home when she was killed. But they didn't see it, didn't hear it, and somehow neither did the people who were supposed to care. The footage was gone. The timeline was broken. And the one man who should have had all the answers had far too many lies. Detective Angela Fry had been on the force 16 years. She'd worked break-ins, domestic violence cases, even a double homicide. But something about the Henderson babysitter case unnerved her on a different level. Not just the quietness of the crime, the coldness of the people left behind. Melanie Henderson, 33, was the first to give her statement. Detectives met her in her home the morning after Olivia's body was removed. Her tone? Shaky but oddly composed. "I left at 6:10. Olivia was always early, so I said hi, kissed the kids, and left. Jared said he was heading out by 6:45. I don't know what happened after that." Melanie insisted she was at a company fundraiser across town. Photos from the event and her keycard access log checked out. She returned at 12:44 a.m., placed her call to 911 at 12:46. But when Fry asked about the security cameras, Melanie blinked, visibly confused. "I didn't even know they were off. That's Jared's thing. He handles the tech stuff." And suddenly, all eyes turned to the husband. Jared Henderson, 38, marketing executive. Charming. Articulate. Clean-cut. He met Olivia at the door, looked detectives in the eye and said, "I left around 7 p.m., met some friends at O'Malley's Tavern. Got back after midnight." But that's not what the tavern staff remembered. No bartender recalled seeing Jared that night. No friends confirmed his presence. And surveillance from O'Malley's? No sign of Jared between 7 o'clock and 12 o'clock. Then came the damning detail. Jared's cell phone pinged off 2 different towers between 9:30 and 10:15 p.m., one near O'Malley's and one far closer to his own home, roughly the same time Olivia was killed. Emma and Caleb were interviewed with child psychologists present. Both children were visibly confused and frightened, but neither reported hearing a struggle, scream, or stranger. Emma mentioned only one thing. "I heard Olivia crying, but I didn't want to get out of bed. I was scared." When asked what time that was, she said, "After my night light turned red." Detectives later confirmed the children's night light had a timer that changed colors at 9:30 p.m., which aligned almost exactly with the camera blackout and the estimated time of death. Someone had silenced Olivia, and her last sounds may have been tears. The home's security system was reviewed by tech specialists. The conclusion? The cameras had not malfunctioned. They had been manually powered off. Using the Henderson's app, only accessible via fingerprint or password. Neither Melanie nor Jared claimed to have touched the system. But the app logs told a different story. It was turned off at 9:42 p.m. from Jared's account. And worse, someone had deleted the previous 3 days of footage from the cloud. When confronted, Jared claimed he hadn't touched it in weeks. Fry didn't believe him. And neither did her partner. 2 days after her death, Olivia's sister, Rachel Hart, sat down for a televised interview. With swollen eyes and shaking hands, she spoke softly. Olivia loved children. She was careful. Smart. There's no way she would have let someone in unless she knew them. She was too cautious. That statement stuck with Fry. Because if Olivia didn't let someone in, then someone was already in the house. Forensics reswept the home after Olivia's autopsy. On a hunch, they checked all entry points again and found something strange. The guest bedroom window, located in the back corner of the house, had a latch that appeared loose from the outside. It wasn't broken, just not locked all the way. The screen had been popped out, but then put back into place as if to hide entry. Outside that window, soft grass, no fence, an easy escape route. Inside the guest room, a faint footprint, size 11. Mel. And Jared wore size 11. When shown the print, he told detectives, "I haven't been in that room for months." Another lie. Olivia's cause of death was confirmed, blunt force trauma to the head, likely from a fire poker found near the fireplace. The weapon had no fingerprints. Wiped clean. But tiny traces of blood spatter on the sleeve of Olivia's sweater showed she had seen the attack coming, likely tried to shield herself. She had no defensive wounds. No bruising on her hands. No struggle marks. It was swift, brutal, targeted. The final piece of Chapter 2's puzzle came from something Olivia's sister mentioned during a private interview with Fry. She told me weeks ago that Jared made her uncomfortable. That he was too friendly. Olivia didn't feel safe around him. Fry's eyes narrowed. Because now they weren't just looking at a man who lied about his whereabouts. They were looking at someone who may have had motive, access, and premeditation. But they still had no hard evidence tying Jared to the actual moment of death, until a call came in to dispatch the next day, from a voice they recognized, and it said, "Check the basement. You missed something." The call came at 2:17 a.m., just one line whispered into the dark: "She's already dead." No name, no number, no follow-up. But the voice knew something only the killer could have known. And when detectives followed the tip, what they found changed everything. The voice on the line wasn't frantic. It wasn't weeping. It didn't even sound afraid. Just quiet, detached, as if they weren't reporting a murder, but merely narrating a moment they had already seen. "She's already dead," the voice said. Then a click, and silence. Detective Angela Fry stared at the dispatch printout. The timestamp read 2:17 a.m., October 18th. Olivia's body had been discovered at 12:46 a.m., which meant the call came nearly 2 hours after police arrived, but the language made it sound like whoever was calling had known beforehand. Why already? Already, compared to when? Fry asked aloud. Then came the second call. This time just one sentence. "Check the basement. You missed something." The Hendersons' basement wasn't finished. Cement floor, exposed beams, storage bins, and an old treadmill. During the initial sweep, nothing had looked suspicious. But detectives hadn't gone through every box. Now, with gloves on and forensics in tow, Fry returned to the dim lower level with a renewed intensity. The first 30 minutes yielded nothing. Then one of the techs pulled back a dusty tarp in the corner. Underneath, a milk crate filled with old electronics. Most were broken, outdated routers, cables, chargers. But sitting atop them was a small black camcorder, early 2000s model. Still intact. Inside the camera was a 16 gigabytes SD card, nearly full. They brought it upstairs, plugged it into the lab's laptop, and began scrolling through the files. The first video was dated 3 months before Olivia's murder. A child's birthday party. The Hendersons' living room. But it wasn't filmed by anyone. It was filmed from something. A static angle. Slightly elevated. Like it had been positioned atop a bookshelf. There were dozens of clips. Unedited. Unnamed. Always in the living room or hallway. And Olivia was in nearly all of them. Laughing with the children. Cleaning up toys. Folding a blanket. Always unaware. Always being watched. Fry leaned forward, her gut twisting. Olivia hadn't just been killed. She'd been monitored. One clip, just a week before the murder, showed her brushing Emma's hair while talking softly. "Olivia, your mommy and daddy love you so much. They're lucky to have you." Voice off screen, barely audible, but she's not lucky. It was a man's voice. Come. Whispering. Almost possessive. When Fry asked Melanie and Jared about the camcorder, both claimed ignorance. "We haven't used that thing in years," Jared insisted. But a closer inspection revealed the camera had been manually placed to record live moments without audio cues. It had been moved periodically, from bookshelf to cabinet top to hallway shelf. Worse yet, there were no fingerprints on the device. It had been wiped clean, likely by someone who knew how to cover their tracks. Forensics enhanced the audio clips. While grainy, the voice in the footage bore an unsettling similarity to Jared's. Tone, cadence, speech rhythm. But it wasn't enough to charge him. And Jared had an airtight defense. "If that's me, prove it." "You can't." Instead, Fry requested a voice match using AI-assisted forensic linguistics. The results? An 82% probability the voice belonged to Jared. Not admissible in court, but deeply telling. When asked about the camera, Caleb and Emma couldn't recall ever seeing it. Maybe it was behind the books? Emma asked. But one detail stood out. Emma remembered her dad telling her not to touch the black thing on the tall shelf, because it was for grown-up stuff. The camera had been hidden in plain sight. And if Olivia ever suspected it was there, she never told anyone. Or maybe she did. Rachel Hart, Olivia's sister, had one of Olivia's old journals. Olivia had been writing intermittently for years, especially when feeling anxious. One entry, dated September 29, 2014, read, "Something about this house doesn't feel right anymore. I think someone's watching me. But I don't want to scare the kids." That page had been torn out. Rachel only discovered it missing when Fry asked to see the journal again. It was there, she swore, right after the entry about Caleb's lost tooth. The tear was clean, precise. Someone had gone through Olivia's things. Someone with access. Now the case shifted. Olivia wasn't just a victim of a violent outburst. She had been watched, recorded, possibly stalked for months, by someone who lived in the same house where she worked. The camcorder's footage suggested obsession. The missing journal page implied control. The phone wipe? What? And the voice on the 2:17 a.m. call? Still a ghost. But if it was Jared, why would he call anonymously? Unless he wanted to redirect attention. Or scare someone into silence. The final video file on the SD card was dated October 17, 2014, the day of the murder. At first, it appeared to be a blank recording, just a dark room and muffled ambient sound. But 3 minutes in, something moved past the lens. A shadow. Human. Close. Then, barely visible, a face. It leaned forward for just half a second before vanishing. And it wasn't Jared. It was someone else. Someone the police never expected. A man who had left town weeks earlier. Someone the children knew. They thought they knew who they were living with. But down in the basement, beneath boxes, old toys, and drywall, was a secret no one was prepared for. It wasn't just surveillance. It was obsession. And it belonged to a man who was supposed to be gone. At first, it looked like just another storage wall, plastic bins, shelves of Christmas decorations, a half-deflated air mattress leaning in the corner. But one box didn't fit. It wasn't labeled. It wasn't dusty. And it wasn't meant to be found. When Fry lifted the box lid, she immediately stepped back. Inside were dozens of printed photographs, some of Olivia at the park with the children, others from inside the house. All were zoomed in. Personal. Intimate. In one, Olivia was tying Emma's shoes. In another, she was napping on the couch, completely unaware of the lens focused on her. But the most disturbing photo? A shot of Olivia brushing her teeth. Inside the Hendersons' upstairs bathroom. The bathroom connected to the guest room. It was clear the photos had been printed and stored deliberately. Then one of Fry's team members noticed something strange behind the drywall near the water heater. An uneven cutout, poorly patched with plaster and paint. They removed the square section and found a small crawl space, no wider than 3 feet, but large enough to fit a grown man lying down. Inside, a pile of old blankets, a thermos, protein bar wrappers, and a cracked iPhone with no SIM card. Someone had lived in that wall. Recently. With the grainy face from the camcorder still unidentified, Fry cross-checked the Hendersons' family history. That's when she saw a name that had slipped under the radar. Derek Wells, Melanie's stepbrother. No criminal record. No social media presence since 2012. No employment records after 2014. According to Melanie, Derek had left for Seattle years ago after a falling out with their father. She hadn't heard from him since. But a background check showed something different. A minor arrest in 2013 for trespassing in Indianapolis. A traffic ticket in Brookridge 6 weeks ago. And a medical prescription filled 2 blocks from the Henderson home, for antipsychotics. Derek had never left town. And he had been living inside their home. When Melanie was questioned again, she broke down. We let him stay in the guest room for a while last year. But it got weird. He never left the house. He watched the kids too closely. He made Olivia uncomfortable. Jared told him to leave and I thought he did. But Fry knew better now. Derek hadn't left. He'd simply moved into the walls. Inside the crawlspace was a spiral notebook, filled cover to cover in Derek's handwriting. It wasn't random scribbles. It was a diary. An emotional log. A fixation. She's different. She listens. She sees me. They don't see me, but she does. When I'm under the floor, I can feel her footsteps. I know when she's happy. I know when she's sad. I'll protect her from them. Jared hurts them. I heard the yelling. But Olivia is kind. I won't let him take her like he took the others. The entries grew darker. Possessive. Paranoid. Delusional. Detectives flagged the line, like he took the others. Who were the others? Had there been previous victims? Or was it the voice of a deteriorating mind? Fry reviewed past call logs from the Henderson home and found something odd. 2911 hang-ups over the last 4 months. No one had followed up. Both calls were made around 3 a.m. and disconnected within seconds. Had Derek tried to warn someone before? Or had he watched something he couldn't unsee? The final clue came from a small strand of hair found on Olivia's sweater. At the collar, barely visible. Lab results confirmed it wasn't Olivia's. It wasn't Jared's. It matched Derek Wells. A warrant was issued for Derek's arrest. Officers combed the area for days. But Derek was gone. Neighbors reported seeing a thin man loitering near the woods the night before Olivia's murder, but thought nothing of it. He had vanished before the police could confront him. What remained behind was a sealed envelope found tucked between drywall insulation, addressed to Olivia. The handwriting was frantic. In red ink, read, "I was trying to keep you safe. He was going to hurt you again. I didn't want it to happen. I didn't want it to happen." No signature. No fingerprints. Just desperation. Was it Jared? Was it Derek? Had Derek watched Olivia die and done nothing? Or had he tried to stop something far worse? The town of Brookridge didn't know what to believe anymore. 2 men. 1 woman. A home filled with lies. And a murder that felt less like a random crime and more like the inevitable end of a silent war. Everyone assumed they knew who Olivia loved. But the truth was buried behind locked texts, erased voicemails, and a relationship she hid from everyone, especially the man who wanted to possess her. In the end, it wasn't just murder. It was betrayal. 4 weeks, Olivia Hart's personal phone had appeared wiped, clean of texts, calls, and photos. But during a digital forensics deep dive, tech investigators discovered a secondary messaging app tucked inside a hidden folder, masked as a budgeting tool. When decrypted, it revealed over 200 private messages. And one consistent sender. Evan Lark. Evan Lark wasn't a name on any witness list. He wasn't in Olivia's emergency contacts. He didn't even appear in her call logs. But the messages told a different story. The first was dated 6 months prior. "I can't believe you're still working there. You know he watches you." The most recent, just hours before Olivia's death, read, "Please leave tonight. Come stay with me. I'm begging you." The timestamp? 8:12 p.m., less than 2 hours before she died. Evan Lark, 35, was a contractor. He'd done electrical rewiring for the Hendersons' home back in 2013. That included their indoor security cameras. When detectives tracked him down, he was cooperative, but visibly shaken. "Yes, I was with Olivia," he admitted. "We kept it quiet because she didn't want drama with the Hendersons. Jared didn't like anyone getting too close to her." When asked if Jared knew about the relationship, Evan hesitated. "I think he found out. About a month ago." She said he started acting colder. Weird. Weird, like how? He'd linger when she was alone. One time she caught him standing in the hallway at night, staring into the living room. Didn't say a word. Just watching her. This wasn't a love triangle. It was something deeper. More psychological. Jared Henderson may not have loved Olivia, but he wanted to control her. Her presence in his home with his kids made her accessible, dependable, predictable. When she started pulling away, when she stopped laughing at his jokes, stopped staying late after putting the kids to bed, he noticed. And according to Evan, Olivia had been planning to quit. She told me she was going to end things that Friday night. That she was done babysitting for the Hendersons. She even said Jared scared her. In Olivia's cloud storage, text discovered a draft email. It was never sent. It was addressed to Melanie Henderson, and it read, "Dear Melanie, I've appreciated working with your children more than I can say, but I've decided to move on. I no longer feel comfortable in your home, and I hope you'll understand. This Friday will be my final shift." The draft was timestamped October 17th, 5:46 p.m. Just 1 hour before Olivia arrived at the house. Fry now believed Derek Wells might not have been the only one watching Olivia. The idea began to fester. What if Jared knew about Derek? What if he used that knowledge? What if he saw Olivia's secret relationship not as betrayal, but as an insult? A woman he couldn't control, choosing someone else? Ego. Rejection. Rage. But still, no direct evidence tied Jared to the murder. Until they rechecked his computer's browser history. Deleted but recovered searches from Jared's desktop revealed. How to disable home security remotely. How long to erase phone data without passcode. Where to hit for instant unconsciousness. The dates aligned, October 14th to 17th. And one more entry, 5 days before the murder. What happens if someone is murdered and I find them? It was enough for Fry to request a search warrant for Jared's cloud storage. That's where they found the keystone. A deleted voicemail recovered from Jared's backup revealed a recording, Olivia's voice, shaky, urgent. "Jared, I don't know what you think is happening, but this needs to stop. I told Melanie I'm done after Friday. Please don't make this worse than it already is." The tone wasn't flirtatious. It was afraid. This voicemail had been recorded 2 days before she was killed. Just as detectives were closing in, a tip came through. A man matching Derek Wells' description was spotted sleeping in an abandoned shed outside Fort Wayne. When apprehended, Derek was incoherent. Paranoid. But he did talk. One sentence chilled Fry to her core. "I heard them fighting. I told him to stop. But he didn't." He didn't stop until she was gone. Fry asked, "Who?" "The husband. Jared. He hit her. I tried to stop him. I wasn't fast enough." When asked why he didn't come forward, Derek broke down. "Because they never believe me. I live in the walls. I'm nobody. But she saw me. She saw me." Jared maintained his innocence. Claimed Derek was a mentally ill squatter with a fixation. Evan was ruled out by GPS and security footage from his apartment across town that night. But Derek's words and Olivia's messages told a consistent story. She feared Jared. She planned to leave. And someone made sure she never would. He wore a clean suit and a grieving mask, but beneath it, the truth screamed louder than ever. As the courtroom fell silent, secrets spilled. And when justice finally came for Olivia Hart, it wasn't the gavel that hit hardest. It was the betrayal from the man everyone thought they could trust. The courtroom was packed to capacity. Reporters squeezed into the back row. Olivia's parents sat in the front, pale and trembling, gripping each other's hands. And across the aisle, the Hendersons, Melanie and Jared, sat in cold silence. Except Jared wasn't just a grieving father anymore. He was now the prime suspect in the murder of Olivia Hart. 3 weeks after Olivia's death, detectives walked into Jared's accounting firm with a warrant. He stood in his glass office, arms crossed, watching them approach with robotic stillness. When they cuffed him, he offered only a thin smile. "You're making a mistake." He said nothing else until he was processed at the station. When asked if he had anything to say, he paused. "I tried to warn her. She shouldn't have stayed in my house." The evidence was overwhelming. Olivia's voicemail pleading for him to leave her alone. Deleted search history on how to cause unconsciousness. The wiped surveillance footage, manipulated through access only Jared possessed. And Derek Wells, the hidden observer, testifying that Jared attacked Olivia while the children slept upstairs. The final blow? A single bloody glove, found in the attic air duct. Traces of Olivia's blood, Jared's fingerprints. It had been stuffed there hastily in the minutes after the murder. Forensic techs believed Jared killed her just before midnight, then turned off the security system, took a shower, dressed in clean clothes, and called 911 at 1:37 a.m. Jared's lawyers claimed Derek was the real killer, a delusional transient with a history of stalking. They painted Derek as a mentally ill squatter, manipulated by police under duress. "He lived in the walls," the defense attorney said. "You expect us to believe his word over a decorated father and community leader?" But Derek's testimony never changed. And neither did the timeline. Evan Lark's alibi, security footage, and text messages ruled him out completely. Derek couldn't have erased the digital evidence. He didn't have access to the smart home controls. Jared did. The trial lasted 17 days. On the stand, Melanie Henderson sat stiffly. She admitted Olivia had recently grown distant, but denied any knowledge of an affair or conflict with her husband. The prosecution brought receipts, emails, texts, financial statements. Jared had taken out a secondary life insurance policy on Olivia, a domestic contractor policy, 2 months before her death. It was just over $50,000. When questioned, Jared stuttered. It was a recommendation from a friend. Just in case. The courtroom gasped. He had insured her life. And then she ended up dead. The jury deliberated for less than 5 hours. When they returned, the courtroom fell silent. "We, the jury, find the defendant, Jared Alexander Henderson, guilty of the charge of first-degree murder." Gasp. Cries. A woman fainted in the gallery. Jared's face twisted, not in regret but fury. He looked directly at Olivia's parents. "She played all of us." The judge slammed the gavel. "Mr. Henderson, you are hereby sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole." Justice had arrived. But it felt too late. Olivia Hart's funeral had already passed, held under gray skies in her childhood town. But at her memorial service weeks later, dozens came forward. Families she had babysat for. Children who adored her. Friends who never knew she was suffering behind her smile. Evan Lark spoke, voice cracking. "She wasn't just my girlfriend. She was the one person who believed I could be better. And she died trying to be free." The Henderson children were placed in the care of their maternal grandparents. Melanie Henderson divorced Jared from behind bars. She never visited him again. Derek Wells was sent to a psychiatric facility, not prison. He'd lived in the walls, yes, but he had also tried to save Olivia. He had sounded the alarm, too late but honestly. Dr. Fry visited him once, months later. He clutched a worn photo of Olivia. "She gave me food. Blankets. She knew I was there. She didn't tell anyone. He paused. She was kind to me. I wanted to save her. But I couldn't. Olivia's parents launched the Heart Foundation, dedicated to supporting domestic abuse survivors and nannies facing unsafe work environments. The foundation advocated for state laws requiring background checks not just on caregivers, but on employers as well. Olivia Hart's story became a cautionary tale, not just of obsession, but of the power imbalance between employer and employee, between a woman trying to survive and a man who refused to let her go. In the end, it wasn't a break-in. It wasn't random. And it wasn't silent. It was personal, methodically planned, and ruthlessly carried out. A woman trusted to protect children lost her life because someone nearby couldn't let go of obsession or rejection. A community's sense of safety shattered long before sunrise that day. And though justice was served, the scars remained for those who woke to find evil had crept in overnight, without warning, without mercy. If this story gripped you, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life cases that will keep you questioning everything. And remember, sometimes the people you trust most are the ones hiding the darkest truths.